You got to get up early in the morning if you're gonna be LeVon. I'm sorry, Anthony. Samuel is parked. He is parked 10 minutes before showtime waiting.
Sam got in here almost before we got in here.
That's right. Sam was waiting.
That was him.
He was like, let me tell you what I'm not going to be is late.
He said,
we appreciate
we missed you, Sam. We had an episode with a lot of comments from new Sharpies. So we want to thank those of you who are joining us again this week. It was a nice episode with our two guests, and we want to thank them for helping out with the show, because our other two hosts.
Oh, we creating beef. We like mess.
Listen, y'all had your whole lives last week. So take it away, Joy. I want to hear. I saw the pictures. I don't know if our Sharpie saw the pictures, but once again, Joy was the queen of drag. Literally in a carriage queen of Dragon Con. So tell us all about it, Joy.
So for those of you who don't know, I am a huge nerd. When I'm not being all political and everything. And this past weekend, Labor Day weekend, is the annual Dragon Con convention here in Atlanta, Georgia. It comes from its origins around Dungeons and Dragons, hence the name Dragon Con, but it has since evolved into do whatever you want. So there's the Dungeons and Dragons aspect of it, but there's also Star Trek, Star Wars, video games, anime, K-pop, K-dramas. There's Wizards and we're doing Yu-Gi-Oh! We're doing Pokemon, anything that you can think of. If it has a fandom, it has a place at Dragon Con. There's Doctor Who. I saw somebody dressed up as Mr. Rogers. It's just a chance for you to come and express yourself. It's very inclusive, very safe, because of some things that happened maybe like a decade ago. Now they have posted like guards to protect people that are in cosplay, especially if you are a woman and people decide they want to come up and do a little, touchy-feely. There's cops that protect you. There's places to go to feel safe, everything. It's wonderful. And this year, off of humbug, this is why I tell people, be who you are all the time. Don't be afraid to step out and do you. Randomly, there's a subgroup called Black Geeks of Dragon Con. There's a diversity track within Dragon Con, to try and give voice to the voiceless. And I randomly in the Black Geeks of Dragon Con group said, you know what? Hey, if anybody's looking for, a panelist or somebody to speak on something, I do diversity. Holla at your girl. And one of the coordinators was like, you know what? Actually, I got a lot on my plate right now. I'm going to be running late. So if you want to help me out, you can sub for me on one of the first panels the first night. I was like, hell yeah, I'll sub for you. I got you. Turns out he was the moderator for that panel. So I ended up moderating. Check me out. Moderating. That's me on the far right. That's me on this side right here. The panel for diversity and speculative fiction. So I was talking to new authors, talking to established authors about why they like to bring different characters, what their journey has been, etc. And that was just the beginning. After that, I got into my cosplay. I got costumes out the wazoo. The same guy was like, yo, we got some extra bands for the parade if you want to march with us in the parade. So before that, me and my friends dressed up as the Handmaid's Tale. So this is my friend getting beat up by this other woman in Handmaid's Tale. This is her homeboy and her sister and me pretending to be, what's funny is this guy right here, the guy that's in there, his name is actually Fred. She was a Fred, and we were all pretending to be handmaids. I'll dress up again as Queen Charlotte again this year. And there was another girl. This is her name. You can follow her. Her name is Royalty Cosplay. She tends to do queens and such. And so since Queen Charlotte had her own special, I was the older Queen Charlotte. She was the
younger one. Oh, look at that.
Killed her. She her Charlotte. Kid in mind. I was like, I gotta step my game up. But guess who got to ride in a carriage in the parade with another woman that I met in the carriage who was cosplaying as Lady Danbury. And she looked
wow.
like Lady Danbury, and I looked like Queen Charlotte. And we were running around. If you follow me on Facebook, you will see the video of us running around doing the royalty wave and everything during the parade. We had a grand old time. And it was wonderful. And I'm going to do it all again next year. You know, it was.
Well, we were watching you be resplendent and regal and queenish and all of that. And it was great. And of course, you killed it on a diversity panel because, I mean,
that's what I do.
It's what you do. It is what you do. We want to welcome all the Sharpies. What were you doing last week?
Samuel, I want to let you know it is appropriate for Dragon Con. Come on down to Atlanta because everybody, when I say everybody, there is cosplay after dark at Dragon Con. We even had panels on the spicier side of Dragon Con. And I actually sat in on a panel about OnlyFans, which kind of gives us a segue into some of the things we want to talk about today.
Well, let's go on ahead and kick it right off then. That was not on my bingo card for today. Joy talking about OnlyFans panels and Dragon Con. That was not on my bingo card. But apparently, being the #1 fan of porn, and see, this is what is extra creepy about this story. Mark Robinson running for governor in North Carolina. North Carolina is, again, a toss-up state. And out of despicable, nominally melanated Black folks who decide that they are going to clown and coon for madness, he is near the top of the Uncle Ruckus scale of coonery. He's pretty bad. Worse, I think, than Byron Donalds, worse than Daniel Cameron. Daniel Cameron is kind of tame and quiet. This guy is big and loud and wrong, like Proud Boy-ish, loud and wrong. So I'm going up my feed. Why did a porn shop owner, and here's the difference. This isn't like Pornhub IP tracking. This is a porn shop owner who claims in the 90s that Mark Robinson visited his sit in a booth and watch girls porn shop. So this is like extra skeevy. This is 1970s Times Square. Yeah. This is
coin operated porn.
This is coin operated, like in a Madonna video where the guy's like doing this as the thing comes down. 5 days a week, this dude was frequenting these spots.
Wait.
5 days a week.
You know how they say you was doing it like it's your job.
Yeah.
He was doing it like that's his job, yo.
How many quarters? I'm having this vision of him going in like it's an arcade and he's just got a sack full of quarters. Yeah. And he's just clink, sklink, sklink, sklink.
And Bob, you are absolutely right. It's always do as I say and not as I do. With the loudmouth Republicans who act so sanctimonious, they always assume that their dirt will not be outed, and they're always outed every time.
And he probably had a set time that he came every day, and that person was probably on shift. You know what I'm saying?
Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what you said? Did you hear what you said?
No, what did I say?
He probably had a set time that he came every day.
He came, he saw, he came, he went.
I mean, the guy said his watch. He probably took his lunch every time the guy came in. Oh, Mark's here. Guess the time we go eat. You know what I'm saying? That's how probably chronic.
Order pizza. We're not doing pineapple today, right? No pineapple. I thought we were supposed to be eating pineapple, but I'm shame. So this is one of those things that could end up tipping the governor race in North Carolina. Not because they don't believe in porn, but you have to know in any southern state, anybody who's running for statewide office who's Black and running as a Republican, The racists are holding their nose.
Yeah.
They're doing it. They're voting for this black person because this black person is saying the right things. But you get in their head that he could be touching on their daughters or looking at their daughters in a leering way, or being dirty or skeevy in any way. You're not getting those votes.
No.
It's always the image. It's always the image of the guy with the overcoat, you know.
Chan, we're going to stop posting your comments if you don't agree to come on this damn show, bro.
You want to go where everybody knows you can.
Margo!
Ew.
So, yeah, never. That is never anything anybody is going to hear me say in that moment.
But the race, this extreme as lieutenant governor, has he always maintained this sort of like extreme position even when he ascended to lieutenant governor? Or is this something he newly adopted? Because I don't know much about him.
I had never really heard about him.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't have a frame of reference to answer that question. I just know that I was very much surprised to see that. And it was a Daily Beast headline, which just makes it even just more betterer. And the tweet that caught my eye, I sent it to Joy. It says, of course, Mark Robinson vehemently denies this as he does the Holocaust.
Yeah, he has a hard on for Hitler, the Holocaust, Jews. I know I keep going with you, but no. Like on his Facebook page, he quotes Hitler all the time.
Oh, yeah.
He denies the Holocaust, as Mark just said. And he actually thought the movie Black Panther, the movie with, Wakanda, was a ploy for Jews to make money off of black people.
It was Hollywood, so.
I have no idea. But that's totally who he is. For some reason, he
notwithstanding the 60-year history of the comic book. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't understand him. But his extremism is just... I guess there's just an appetite for it there in North Carolina.
Well, he has an appetite for something.
You know what?
Because he's certainly not on the Zempi.
I want to remind people about the origins of this country. Not just the origins of, or not just the inception of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, but the origins of the people that came here and the myth of escaping religious persecution. That is not what was going on. What really happened, in a nutshell, not to belabor the point, you had people who were so pent up in their sexual frustration that they thought the rest of Europe was freaky and nasty, and they did not like that they couldn't pass judgment on everybody. So they decided to come bring their oppressive and repressive sexual frustration here. And they brought their repressed prudishness, their puritanical ways here, so they could continue to pretend that sex was bad. And sex in itself is evil. The idea that sex is only to be used for procreation, and that any woman who enjoyed sex was by her very nature of enjoying sex a whore, and potentially to be burned as a witch for enjoying sex. Even if it was with her husband, she should not enjoy it. She should lay there and pray for conception while her husband belabored above her. And now husbands, because they are creatures of creature comforts, etc., needed outlets. And so you had other women that were whores that were to be used and then sullied and outside the community for sexual exploits, but to be shunned, scarlet letter and all that kind of stuff. And if they mouthed off about it, they might also be witches and should be burned. All of this is how Salem, all of this is how they started, right? And that continues on. And so the idea that men, specifically landed entitled white men, could lock up their cake and eat it too. Yeah. That's the problem. And so we still have this idea that has somehow found its place, once again, in the far-right Christian fundamentalism, whatever they want to call it, this American Christian idea, and this GOP uber religious right that sex is bad. It always comes back down to sex. They don't care about killing kids with guns. They don't care about killing kids with plastic food. They don't care about the environment. They don't care about anything other than keep your dick in your pants unless you're me. My dick goes wherever it wants. But your dick stays there and stays away from my son. My daughter, she's on her own. She shouldn't have been a whore. Like all of this is weird.
It's the
And weird.
pinnacle of a hypocrisy, in my opinion. You remember when you mentioned during the RNC, Tom, that Grindr and Scruff, their usage that week was like off the charts? It goes against everything they even portray themselves as. And the fact that they keep recycling this. It's in Project 2025 where they want to ban porn yet again. So it's like something that always manages to be at the forefront of their agenda when they even know themselves is something that is not even reachable. It's not, I would dare to say it's not even humanly possible.
It's not
Everybody
humanly possible.
likes sex.
Listen, if they try to, you talk about breaking the internet, turn off porn.
Yeah.
Right. You know the highest per capita users of porn, the Mormons? Well, let me take that back because that is slander. I do not mean that. The state, was it Utah, where there's a high Mormon?
Yeah, there was this. Yeah.
Utah has the highest per capita usage of Pornhub.
So yeah. Before we kind of mentioned it in passing in the midst of our screed about the hypocrisy, and while Joy was giving us an amazing primer on the history of sexual repression in this country, and it struck me as you were saying that it was literally sounding like the outline for Margaret Atwood's Handmaid's Tale. It was literally like, women, you just sit down, but you also have the whores who are in whore town, and the dudes, they got to get their little whatever, and all the controlling and all of that stuff. It was like, wowzers. We should take a moment to mourn the passing of the students and teachers who were killed in the Georgia school shooting, this time by a 14-year-old who was on a watch list, but there aren't any red flag laws in Georgia. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, jumps out saying, we've got to send prayers to those who were killed and injured, to which she got savaged on Twitter. Because she, of course, posts on her campaign website, and she believes in guns and God and Trump and blah, 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 and Super 2A, and, win this assault rifle by giving me a donation. And it's like, so who are we praying to since it's not working? Yeah. What are we praying for?
They're not praying.
Prayer stop those bullets.
They're not praying.
Right.
They're not praying. They're saying thoughts and prayers.
Right.
The way I say I'm going to the gym.
Right.
I'm not.
Automatic. It's like an automatic response.
Right.
I found this one unusually unsettling because 14 years old, guys.
That's young.
How much lived experience do you have where you're so beside yourself with your environment, with the people you go to school with, where you have the know-how to get a gun and just spray people? That to me is a direct result of just what he's seeing every day, mirroring some of the things that he's seen in past mass shootings, and just, making them his own. I don't understand how a 14-year-old can all of a sudden have that much, angst inside of him to want to go spray his entire high school or middle school, whichever it was. So it's a deeply seated problem. They talk about, mental health and what have you. But even that is just an automatic response. You know what I'm saying? It's just something you say until the story passes over. And then they go back to having those NRA conventions where everybody can get a gun without any sort of vetting.
It's interesting, while we're on the topic of guns and the intersection of guns and politics, another story that came out this week about the intersection of guns and politics was a report that the shooter in the Donald Trump Pennsylvania shooting was actually not struck first by a Secret Service sniper. Actually, he was shot by the cop who made it to the roof. And the new findings are that cop shot the rifle, and the rifle kind of ricocheted into his face. And maybe that's why one of the shots didn't go. And then the sniper got him. So he got a shot off, or maybe two shots, and then the cop got him, kind of disabled him, threw him off, whatever, and then the sniper hit him. So it wasn't even the Secret Service that had the first shot. There was a cop on the roof who was trying to apprehend that guy after the 15 minutes of people saying there's somebody on the roof. So it's looking more and more twitchy and twisty about all of these circumstances, and it's all playing into a terrifically exciting election season. We are literally 60 days away, folks. That is kind of crazy. We are 60 days away from this election. And so those of you who have not yet registered to vote, that's a very small segment of our population, of course. Please encourage your 18-year-old children, your children who are going to be 18 by the time election day, please encourage them to go on ahead and register to vote and take them to the polling place and have them call for their friends. Do a sleepover the night before, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. Let's get these ballot boxes stuffed full of caring and concerned Americans who are fighting for this country.
Hydrate and wear a diaper, whatever you need to do.
Early ballots go out in North Carolina tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's an important thing. I typically, it depends. I like voting on the day. Go ahead.
It's funny how Republicans don't see people dying at school as also a form of abortion.
Wow. That's actual post-birth abortion.
Yes.
Since you like to use that
they
term.
like, yeah, exactly.
Which is a
until 9
fantasy.
months.
It doesn't actually happen. And Trump still says that even after the baby is born. It's like, no, that's not how it works. And Fox News, of all people, had to fact check JD Vance on that one. Or it may have been Corey Lewandowski. Who knows? They're all interchangeable at this point. But they had to fact check someone who was trying to assert that, and she was like, "That would be infanticide. We all know that infanticide is not legal."
Yeah,
right.
Murder is actually what that is. But.
Yeah.
Well, infanticide is just a highly specific term of murder for that baby. Probably special circumstances with that as well. But we have a bunch of topics. We've already talked about Mark. We've talked about the Georgia school shooting, but you mentioned Nazis before, Jermaine, which leads us to another big story that we have this week about JD Vance and Tucker Carlson going on tour together. And how does that tie into Nazis exactly? Well,
get that off my screen.
I'm sorry. Tucker Carlson really looks like Damien in that picture.
I mean, that is a wig.
He barely has any lips. Those coal black eyes that, at least he's tanned in the fires of hell. But that's creepy.
I think JD Vance, he has those vampire eyes that look like
the ice blue kind of.
Yeah.
That's not a great look. Yeah, well. So what happened was.
Oh, got another vote for the goatee.
See, it's the goatee for me.
Yes.
He's never shaving that off. Something now.
My stock has went up at Gold's Gym. I should add.
So, Tucker Carlson had this famous Nazi sympathizer on his show. And that Nazi sympathizer tried to say that Winston Churchill was actually the villain of World War II. Because, misunderstood Adolf. He didn't want war. He didn't want those people to go to those camps and then die in those camps. That wasn't a part of his final solution. There was no documentary evidence that that's exactly what he was going to do. It was really Winston Churchill for not rolling over and just allowing himself to be dominated by Germany and striking those bombing runs. That was what really escalated things. And so this Nazi apologist was platformed on Tucker's show and crowing about how being on Tucker's show has like doubled and tripled his viewership, which hopefully means it went into double digits. And now JD Vance, freshly off being tied to a Nazi sympathizer, is going on the road with Tucker Carlson. Now, I think it's a wonderful thing that Tucker Carlson was deplatformed. Jesse Waters is perhaps even more smug and annoying than Tucker Carlson, but at least Tucker is limited in the scope of his reach now. But now that JD Vance is going on tour with him, it's going to be almost insufferable. Joy, what do you think about Nazi sympathizers on the road with the GOP while Trump is trying to proclaim that he's the best president for Jews, and if you don't align yourself with him, you are a self-hating Jew?
I think that anyone that calls themselves a rational thinker, that says that they make decisions based on objective evidence, would have to look at this objective evidence. I am looking at the vice presidential nominee take a road trip and proclaim camaraderie with people who are saying that my people have not been persecuted, have not been murdered, have not been gassed, that none of this happened, and that the person that did all of that needs to be understood and has been vilified in history, basically saying that the generational trauma that I have experienced is a lie. I don't think that I could vote for putting someone that thinks my history is a lie. I can't put that person in power. And if I vote to do so, I shame my ancestors. That's how I would feel personally.
Jermaine?
I actually feel like this is a substitute for Trump actually going out there, because he's tired, he's old, he's lazy, he has no money. Mind you, there's like a whole trail of debt from all these different places where he's had rallies that he hasn't settled. So he's probably not invited back. So I'm thinking that the campaign is looking at this as an opportunity for JD, along with Tucker, to make the case for him being president. I feel like that's more so what it's about. The fact that, he did have the guy on the show that Monday just happens to be, coincidence, but that doesn't look good. But I honestly feel like this is just, a rather substitute, for them going out there making the case for Trump, because like I just mentioned, because of the fact that he's just tired, lazy, and just really doesn't have it in him anymore. I feel like he really thinks he has it in the bag too. Even if he loses, he feels like he can take this straight to the courts and he'll win. That's the way he's kind of playing this to me. And it's beginning to be a lot more obvious as the time goes on, because he's really, really leaning into the really, really extreme of just insane things nowadays, as if he has nothing to lose.
I don't disagree that in his delusion, that's probably exactly what he does think. The thing that's freaky for me is that, unlike last time, sir, you're not the president. And guess who gets to certify the results for the Senate? It's your opponent, Kamala Harris, because she's
she can
the
actually
vice
do
president.
that even though she's running?
I mean, she's still vice president. She's not going to not be vice president when, by the time that happens, it's her job. It's just like Mike Pence's job. It's a ceremonial thing, but she's not going to be told by Biden to hold up the certification. If he loses, it's over. He can try to pretend he didn't win last time and he was the president. He's nothing now.
I thought it deferred to Mike Johnson because she's on the ballot. That's what I was always assuming. And this was just me, my thinking. I didn't know.
But why would that be true, though?
I don't know.
It's a ceremonial certification. She just has to say these are they, and that's it. Okay. That's all it is. She doesn't have to actually do anything. She just has to say, "Yep, bam." Nobody's going to hold it up. There's not going to be. I mean, he's obviously put people in place at the local level. People who are there to perhaps slow down or try to deny, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, the Secretary of State is going to be pushing those people.
Now, to your point, Jermaine, he's going to try and try this in the court of public opinion and say, oh, she's cheating because she's on the ballot and she did the certification, even acting like it's not some sort of just perfunctory ceremony. He's going to try that. Okay. He's going to, the same way, like in the state of Georgia, Kemp was over elections when he became governor. Now, he also purged people from the role. Yeah. That is different. He had an active hand in how that election went out. Kamala does not have that power as vice president. She's going to stand there and go, like you said, these are they, let's go, and have no power over individual people voting in multiple states. Right. But he's going to try and make it seem like she said she was driving around following ballot boxes around, dumping out votes into the river or whatever it was he said last time. Right. He's going to try it. And people are going to believe him. But I don't, that's why we're saying it has to be a landslide to avoid this nebulous stuff to happen in the middle.
I think decisive. I think if it's the same or the same electoral college margin that Biden has, you are not going to find the people who stuck their necks out last time, some of whom have been indicted, some, governors who, or congresspersons who have left office. You're not going to find Raffensperger even entertaining it. You're not going to have Kemp even
Trump
entertaining
allowed
it.
all those people's careers to be ruined. He didn't help anybody that helped him.
And because he's not the president. And this is what I think a lot of rational GOP people, I'm not talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm not even talking about, although, if somebody like Jim Jordan actually gets voted out of office, if Comer gets voted out of office, I think then it may actually trigger some people to rethink things. But if you stuck your neck out last time and he still didn't win, if he doesn't have more votes on election night, then what's playing in your head is this is going to be exactly what it was 4 years ago. Yeah. And it's going to be a waste of time. The country is ready to move on. Biden is going to be stepping down and he is going to turn it over to Kamala Harris. It's not going to be the confusion that it was with the sitting president denying the results of the election. It's just not going to be that. So I don't feel like there's going to be that same drive. You've got some of these people who were in election offices who are under indictment and who have been removed from their offices. That lady in Colorado has been removed.
But with all the groundwork that they're laying right now for possible fraud claims, that doesn't give you pause at all that they can make.
I hear you, but it's not like state. There are some states where a Secretary of State might try to hold things up, but at the end of the day, they have individual people, some in individual counties. If it was Harris County or if it was Fulton County, I'd be more concerned. But these polling supervisors and all this sort of stuff, there's only so much gas you have, and he doesn't have any money. He doesn't have the money to litigate this time. Right. So it's not going to be super duper easy to do.
Hang on, thank you, Bob, for shortening that comment that you had at first. Colin Gray, who was the father of Colt Gray, who was the teen suspect in the Appalachian High School shooting, Colin Gray has been arrested. He's being charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. So this is the father of the 14-year-old, and he is probably going to go to jail for a very long time for the crimes of his son. And his son is not off the hook, but he has been arrested on charges pertaining to that shooting. Just wanted
he purchased that gun for his son last Christmas, I was reading. Yeah. But before that, the states, I see this concerted effort on the states' behalf to really, really get Trump there, because not only do they have suppression tactics going on in Georgia, Texas just purged over 1 million people. Have you heard about that, Joy?
No, I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, Governor Abbott, they all have purged over 1 million voters in Texas. So there's like this huge blitz right now by the DNC to get everyone to check their voter registration in Texas and make sure they can vote, and not do it online, but actually go to the county clerks, because even that's convoluted there in Texas. So I feel like a lot of states are trying to actually do what Trump wasn't able to do the last time, based on what I've been finding and reading. So that's the reason why I just kind of wonder, like, could they really have valid, claims to say that, there was some hanky-panky going on where there really wasn't?
Well, I mean, Texas is going to be one of those states where Trump is expected to win. And if you purged 1 million people and Trump still loses, that's your bad.
Yeah.
I'm less concerned about Texas and Florida. I'm more concerned about Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And Georgia.
Pennsylvania. I mean, we don't even need Georgia technically if we get Pennsylvania and some of the other states fall right. But especially if North Carolina comes to us. If North Carolina comes to us, that's a pretty even swap for Georgia. So we'd still be fine. But without Pennsylvania, it makes it a lot tougher. You'd have to.
I want us to get Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina.
Oh, so yeah. No, all 3 of those would be great.
Did all these people leave the urban cities in Pennsylvania? Like, when did this shift, happen all of a sudden? I mean, when you have a popular Democratic governor in Pennsylvania, the mayor
it's just how the polling is going. Some of it is probably fracking. Some of it is, those non-Pittsburgh, non-Philly counties. I mean, there's a lot of people. He only won by he won by 100,000 votes, I think, in Pennsylvania. So that's not a tiny margin. It was 11,000 in Georgia. So that's going to be a lot tossier, I think.
Samuel, you know what? You have a very good question here. The question is, I want there to be a law that when we are voting on certain issues, it should not be a word salad. Just put it in layman's terms. Why confuse the voter? The purpose is to confuse the voter.
Exactly.
The purpose is to make the idea or the concept of the question so convoluted that you're not sure if you are for or against it.
Right.
So that you rely on your representatives or you rely on the people who guide you. People outside, vote no on Prop 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
Tell you what to do, because the words is 700 words to say, should I or should I not vote?
Right.
Should I not vote yes for the non thing?
Right.
What the hell did I just say?
Are you for abort? Are you pro-choice? Vote no on the anti-pro-choice, not choice chooser.
Right.
Wait, huh? I mean, it's insidious. It's exactly the point. To I mean, we don't need to restate what Joy said, but that is the point.
Yeah.
To create the confusion so the people who want the worst outcome win. I was literally called for a poll about an issue related to price controls on rent and also decriminalization of certain drug-related crimes or whatever, or recriminalization. And she kept trying to say, I don't know if she thought I was a progressive or whatever, but she was asking me, and I'm like, okay, so wait a minute, hold on. I just want to make sure. Are you saying that this means this?
Yeah.
And she said it, and I said, okay, well then no. Are you yes, very against it. And then she'd say it another way, and I'd say, yes, still very against it. Like, I don't know, you're trying to make it seem, I want your polling to reflect that this black man said hail to the non, I'm not voting for it, and there's nothing you can do to make me vote for it.
I was coming out of Whole Foods, and you know they always canvass you out of Whole Foods sometimes to get you to sign those things. And I was like, sweetheart, first of all, stop talking fast and break it down to me in third grade words, because right now I don't know what you're saying and I'm all over the place and I'm very hip on issues, but right now I don't understand you. So I feel like it's pretty much standard for them to just do that, just to get people to just sign whatever, and not knowing that they might be voting against their own interests. But I didn't have that problem when I was in Texas for some reason. I always understood what I was voting for whenever I lived back home. It wasn't until I moved on the coast that I had to like really sit down and almost diagram the freaking sentence, if you know what I'm saying, just to see exactly what it was that was on, the ballot.
And so, like Paul says, you need to use a law dictionary when reading these proposed laws. That's the point of the lawyers. And that's the point of the representatives that you sent to do stuff on your behalf, is you trust them to read it and understand it. And sometimes they don't read it and understand it either. They're going off who paid them. This is why everything is so corrupt or becomes so corrupt over time, is you trust people to do things for you, and then they get corrupted or bought off, or they don't understand it either. So you combine the whereas heretofore, unbeknownst to blah 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 blahs with Americans read on an 8th grade level.
Yeah,
and you understand
eighth grade.
I'm being generous. And you understand why we don't even know why we all of a sudden. I remember there being a proposition that got voted down. It was a LGBTQ proposition that got voted down in California, and people were shocked, and they're like, I can't believe that they didn't vote for this in California. And it was the way it was worded. Yeah. It was, do you vote to not agree to something, not blah, 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 blah. And everybody's like, no.
No.
And then it was like, wow, California's not as liberal as we thought. Well, because we didn't know what the fuck we was voting for. And then the next time around, it got rectified. But for a minute, people were like, damn, California went left, or went right, as it were.
Right, as it were.
Right, it's the way things were. I with my 3 degrees, have sat in a ballot booth like, you know what, I'm gonna read this again, because what the hell? You want the money to go where, for what?
Right.
And I had to sit there and think about, okay, so if this money goes here, I'm literally like diagramming it in my mind.
That's what I do. I'm serious.
The money, and then divert it for the school, and then you can use it. Hell no.
Yeah, right. One of the things that I've started to do as shorthand, because one of the things in California, at least, when they have these big ballot initiatives, they have all of the text of the thing. And then at the bottom, it usually says, this will result in a 10% tax on this for this many years, and the money will go to public parks. So it'll just be like a sentence or two at the end. And then underneath that, it says, who is supporting it? And so if it's like Republicans for anti-tax or something like that, I'm like, oh, see, this is some bullshit. So
and that's what sways me. When I see who's behind it, that's
exactly.
I'm like, okay, I get it.
And so I flip to the other side and I look and I'm like, oh, that's what it means. And then I look who's supporting that. And it's like, California teachers and or the unions or whatever. I'm like, oh, see, this is actually a progressive initiative. And this is why I need to vote this way on it. Speaking, though, about the tenuous control over the secretaries of states and elections and ballots and all this stuff, the Senate race in Montana with John Tester, longtime office holder, longtime senator in a basically red state. I mean, basically empty state, but red. But he has held on. He's a veteran, has been in the Senate, serving his state for a long time, brings home money to the state. People like John Tester. But because in the post-Trump America, everybody's got to try to run. And so he's running against, or a Trumpy senator aspirant is running against him. And up until this week, it was kind of a toss-up. It was one of the more fractious races just because Montana is a red state and John Tester is a Dem. Even though he's a blue dog Dem, he's still a Dem. And so it was looking like if he was able to hold on, he was probably going to be the 50th Senate seat that the Dems can hold. And of course, if we flip Texas with Colin Allred or we get Rick Scott in Florida, that would be great. But we are defending a lot of Senate seats. And so he was the one that was highest on the priority of trying to maintain control. Well, wouldn't you know, the GOP, without paying too much attention or using any vetting or doing any Oppo research on their own guy, they did not know that the guy they put up was a complete clown. And he is on recorded tape disparaging indigenous tribal people in a podcast. And when I tell you, he leaned into the most ridiculous, heinous stereotypes, talking about how when you go to a rally, if they like it, if they're throwing beer cans at you at 8 a.m.
What? Because
indigenous people are supposed to be alcoholics. And so if they're drinking at your 8 a.m. rally, they're throwing their empties at you as a sign of support.
Boy, fuck you.
And he made another disparaging comment about either like watching a football game or something. And again, related to hard liquor and indigenous tribal people. And it's just like, like literally, Montana is not a Puritan English word, right? You know that's like a whole rectangle of indigenous land. Like, do you get that? Do you get that's where you are?
A lot of people don't understand, like, most of the names of land in the United States.
Yeah, the Dakotas.
Tennessee.
Idaho.
Iowa.
Waxahachie. Chattahoochee.
Yeah, there's no Waxahachie Dover or in England. These were place names by the people who lived in this place before you. Illinois.
Yeah.
Is a whole tribe.
Mm-hmm.
He probably didn't even think it was problematic when he said it, though.
Oh, of course he didn't. And he certainly didn't think he was recorded.
Yeah. Wow.
So we're knocking off stories off of our lead sheet. And so I'm happy to do that. Chan just posted another.
That makes me happy.
I remember that commercial.
I do too. It was about garbage and desecrating the land.
The rivers and
Yeah, I remember it. And when Smokey Bear actually was on TV, only you
And prevent forest fires.
Yeah. And Sam, this is on brand for the Republicans. I was actually about to bring that up.
Absolutely.
They say birds of a feather flock together. They didn't vet him because they got a vibe from him. Like, he's one of us, and he is one of them. He absolutely is. And at this point, there are still a few people. Just quick non sequitur. I spent maybe 90 minutes a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, talking to a woman who is a Trump supporter on Facebook. She is a friend of a friend. And our mutual friend was like, Joy, could you talk to her? Because I already know what to do her. This woman was lonely. She was sad. She was tired. She had been let go. She had a lot of problems in her life. And she just needed someone to listen. And like a lot of people who find themselves needing someone to listen, a lot of things will sound good if you're susceptible to just being out there. And she said she thought Trump was the answer. And she thought that Democrats were godless, paganistic people. I spent 90 minutes texting with her back and forth on Facebook Messenger, had her crying, had her on top. Do you think our mutual friend will still be my friend? I didn't mean to be mean. And she just needs somebody to listen to her. Hopefully I helped her see the light. But my point in all of this is, going back to this, being on brand, at this point, if you refuse to, one of my favorite quotes, prejudice is an emotional commitment to ignorance. Yeah. If you, at this point, you refuse, you don't want to hear, you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to see it, you don't want to have any information to the opposite. If you riding with the GOP in its current iteration, with the candidates that they have chosen to put forward, if you're saying these are the people that I want to represent me, you are choosing hate. You are choosing discrimination, racism. You are choosing child trafficking. You are choosing to look the other way when kids are killed by guns. You are choosing to not solve any of the problems in the United States, all so that you can pretend you are better than somebody else. Yeah. You are choosing that myth over the future of your own children, and you need to live with that. And a lot of people are acting like they don't see it. You can act all you want, but you got to know that that's what you're choosing. And if you don't want to see it, that's on you.
It is.
Don't come crying to me, because I'm not trying to hear you after this.
So, you used the old proverb, birds of a feather flock together. And it was literally today that I heard the back end of that proverb. There's two parts, just like master or jack of all trades, master of none. Mm-hmm. But the second part is, but that's better than just being a master of one.
Yeah.
And the birds of a feather flock together until the cat comes. Mm-hmm. So you think that it's about, being with your friends, but the actual back half of it says, nah, because when trouble comes, you all scatter.
Yeah.
Come on, Kamala Judgment. So this kind of leads us into our next topic, because this is how dumb and desperate the GOP is. There is a faction, and they're not technically aligned per se with the Trump campaign. There's no official relationship, but they're just some people who are trying some dumb stuff. They're basically trying to say that because neither of Kamala Harris's parents were born in America, despite the fact that she was born in America, nobody's disputing that she was born in America, but because neither of her parents were born in America or American citizens, then she, on the basis of the Dred Scott decision, is ineligible to be president of the United States. To be clear, the sitting vice president, who automatically assumes the presidency if the president dies or becomes incapacitated, is not eligible to run for president of the United States based on their Clarence Thomas-esque adjacent bullshit about the Dred Scott decision. And this is something they're trying. I mean, it's not going anywhere, but the very fact that they brought it up is just an indication of how desperate they are.
Yeah, this is the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. They actually made this declaration and made this part of their platform back in October. And this was before the primaries even started. They didn't even want Vivek or Nikki Haley to
Yeah,
participate
that's right.
in the primaries
Yeah.
because of this. But it totally gets at me because it's like they stopped there, not understanding that a few years later, the 13th and 14th Amendment completely wiped away that decision. So it's as if, they're just going to totally overlook the fact that that's all null and void and just hold on to a court ruling that stayed in place as a result just to suit their narrative. They're grasping for straws at this point.
Yes.
There's really nothing there. I think it's just more to keep the chaos going, to keep stuff just out there in the ether, just to keep people just all over the place and just second guessing even something that they know is real and sound. Right. When I saw that, I kind of cracked up because I remember when they did that and it didn't make traction because they didn't want Vivek or Nikki Haley to be in the primaries as a result of it. And I'm like, oh, so now it's just now beginning to surface. Right. But but this is another thing because I kind of did a deep dive into this when they did it. Their inspiration for such was Scalia, the late Justice Scalia, and Clarence Thomas, because they identified themselves as being pure constitutionalists. Oh, whatever. So a natural born citizen in their eyes is someone who was born here to parents that were born here.
So George Washington and Thomas Jefferson weren't actual presidents?
Right, because their parents were not born here.
It's crazy. When I saw this, I was like, oh my God, it's just now really beginning to surface. Because I remember when they did that. Yeah. That's the nerd in me, Joy.
No, I like it. But there's always a cutoff of me, but not you.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was interesting.
I guess something that warmed my heart today was Judge Tanya Chutkan basically putting on some Doc Martens and kicking Trump's lawyers dead in the balls on this whole immunity and blah, 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 blah. So three things technically are happening right now. Trump is desperately trying to eliminate being sentenced on September 18th. And he has now, I think he's had 3 bites at the apple since the announcement about September 18th was made. And he's tried to remove the case to federal court at least 2 times, maybe 3 times. And each time it's the same judge. And the judge is like, yeah, but no.
She'd be playing whack-a-mole with him. No.
And so when that's New York felonies, that's the 34 felonies. Okay. 4 things actually happened. Then we've got Tish James, who was like, yeah, we've been waiting long enough. Let's come up off that $500 million. And so he's got that crack-a-lackin'. Then you've got Jack Smith in the Mar-a-Lago case, who filed his objections about the dismissal. He did not call for the recusal of Aileen Cannon. However, an amicus brief was just filed by 2 former 11th Circuit judges saying this is why she needs to be moved. They're amicus briefs, so they don't necessarily have to be heard by the 11th Circuit, but the analysis is generally speaking that because the Justice Department would have some trouble wading in on the recusal of a judge in their case, it was perhaps judicious of them, no pun intended, to have these friends, these Republican friends of the court, file this motion saying that, yeah, in our opinion, she needs to go. So that happened. Then Tanya Chutkan gets, and she hears arguments from Beauvais and some of Trump's other criminal defense lawyers. And basically, they were like, yeah, none of these things should be filed. And, he messed around and said, because of the timetable for the election. And that's not something she was trying to hear. She was like, yeah, but no, that doesn't mean anything to me. That's not going to stand in the way of anything. And so I've got to do this in a timely way, in a professional way. But y'all held me up for 3-4 months. And so now I've got this, and now I've got to deal with it. And so I'm going to have these hearings. And what Trump is afraid of is that Jack Smith is basically hinting that he wants to file, yes, He's hiding behind that tree in the yellow suit, like, hey. He wants to file the new information about the new superseding indictment and get all of that out on record.
I'm here for it.
And
Me
she's
too.
like, I'm here for it too, because I don't give a hoot about no election. It's not my fault he's running for office. He shouldn't be running for office then. Exactly.
I love Bob. Bob like, girl, Bob.
And she has new hair.
And the picture, the one picture they have of her, it's always her leaning to the side, smiling with her eyes like, So not a very good week for him. And he's being very low energy. He did this town hall with Sean Hannity, where at least momentarily, he seemed to forget that Joe Biden is no longer in the race. And he's running against Kamala Harris. He kept talking about running against Biden and if Biden wins and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like.
Is that the same interview where he admitted he had a right to interfere with the election? Is that the same interview? Because he made that statement.
There's lots of interviews where he's been saying that.
Well, he said that recently. And I was like, you would say that on the week that you're going before Judge Chutkan?
I mean, again, Jermaine, he says most of the same things every time he gets in front of a microphone, so it's hard to split it up.
The one of the things that I think he struggles with, I guess I want to put it, is he doesn't realize that the court,
right,
and the court of public opinion are
different.
Two different things.
Yeah,
you can't just be talking slick out the mouth on a hot mic and think that this ain't gonna come back and bite you in the ass. Just because you didn't say it in the halls of justice don't mean they can't pull this recording and use it as evidence. You know?
Well, and the gala that he was throwing for the January 6th people, somebody must have told him, maybe we shouldn't be doing that because it kind of implies that you're protecting these people because they were working with or for you. And so they came up with some BS excuse. By the way, the guy who was like the star recipient of the funds that they were supposed to be fundraising is the guy who literally assaulted a police officer, dragged him down steps, beat him, kicked him, and hit him, I think, with a flagpole. And he was an out of duty sheriff who was on sick leave when he came down to January 6th.
The government,
right?
Okay.
How you gonna get fired on your day off? And now he's in jail. One of the longest sentences.
Where he belongs.
Exactly. Well, not according to Trump. He's a hostage.
Is that the one from out here in Van Nuys?
Yes.
I don't think he's from Van Nuys.
Out here in Van Nuys was actually sentenced. I was like, good Lord, you're that close to me?
They're everywhere.
Yeah, no, they are. I remember in the last cycle on I think it was Victory, or maybe it was on that access road that runs by the reservoir near Sepulveda, the Sepulveda Basin. Mm-hmm. And there was a kind of like, it wasn't a long caravan, but it was a caravan of like maybe 20 trucks, and they had the super big Trump flags. By the way, Trump is selling as merch a flag pin that has Trump in gold letters over the flag, which is a violation of flag code and a desecration of the flag.
Yeah,
but he's selling that.
Desecrates everything.
Yeah, on his website. But again, in California, they were honking and being all loud, and I was like, I mean, it's hot and you're wasting gas on the side of the road. But okay, I mean, whatever. Of course, he didn't win California. So one of the things that is interesting in the polling is that some polls are saying that nationally, Harris is not doing that much better than Biden. She's about where Biden was in 2020. In some places, she's a little bit softer. But one of the things that they don't take into account, at least fully, is that Harris's support in California can be a little bit softer. There may be some voters that aren't for her right now in California, but she's still going to carry California. Yeah. The only place where that sort of math really matters is Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and to a lesser extent, North Carolina, if North Carolina comes into play. But given the chicanery that happened in Georgia, given the very mixed messages that Trump has been giving, especially about, he's in Michigan today talking to auto manufacturers praising Elon Musk, who is an EV car manufacturer, but then simultaneously telling the people in this photo op, because it's not a union plant, but in this photo op where he has unions for Trump, people waving flags, that Chinese batteries being brought into this country are going to be a problem. But it's perfectly fine for Elon Musk to build his cars here and also build cars in China. But you're being forced to turn into EV. And it's like the big three automakers just realized we've got to be an EV. They don't want to cede that territory to Tesla. They don't want to cede that territory to China, making $12,000 EV cars. They don't want that.
Mm-mm.
And if you don't understand that about the union, when
I saw, did you see the slight shade that the United Auto Workers leader, the female leader, when he went to Vance went to shake her hand and she tried to pound him and they had this awkward handshake and she was like, first time here? And he was like, yeah, first time here. She's like, welcome. And he didn't even catch
finally
that she was saying, you've never been here before.
Right.
I don't fucking know you, dude. Like he didn't catch none of that. She was real slick with it. First time here.
Meanwhile, Kamala's bringing slices of chocolate caramel cake to her.
Right.
But on the flip side of that union support, the leader of the Teamsters, what's his name?
Sean Fain. Sean Fain.
He's like sort of like sitting in the middle right now, and I'm not understanding.
Oh no, Teamsters. I'm sorry. No, not
the Teamsters. Yeah.
No, Sean. The Teamsters guy spoke at the RNC, right? And he's catching hell from his union.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because he's placating to both bases within his union? Because there are some Republican leaning and there's some Democratic leaning within the Teamsters. So I don't understand the method as to what he's doing. I was talking to Vince about this the other night. Like, where is he trying? Is he just trying to like see who's going to have the momentum before he throws his weight around them? Like, I'm not understanding what his strategy might be at this point.
I mean, he kind of threw in with Trump already.
He threw in with Trump already, and he's catching hell for it. So he's trying to backpedal a little bit because he thought, like a lot of the GOP thinks, that the base for Trump is excuse me for the pejorative things I'm about to say, the mindless, blue collar, white America, all is for Trump, and that they're poor and dumb and believe what they're told. That is not the case. A lot of them voted for Obama because he said he was bringing change. Then they voted for Trump because they wanted something different. And the something different now is going to be Kamala Harris. And they're consistently looking for someone to bring them out of decades of misery. And it's anybody that has something new. And Trump ain't new no more.
No,
he wasn't. And he honestly made it worse for them when they were there, because who was an essential worker? Them.
Right.
Yeah. Who did he not help during COVID? Them. And it was tone deaf. It was tone deaf of him to go and support Trump like that, not really understanding. And it spoke to the fact of the corruption in that organization, for one.
Yeah.
I feel like
he's ever been corrupt in the past. There's never been anything bad ever said about any Teamster ever.
Yeah. But also when he spoke at the RNC, Trump had all the steam. So I felt like he thought it was a safe bet.
He did,
not knowing what happened, just a few weeks after that.
Right, Biden was still in it.
Biden was still in it. Mm-hmm. And so he thought it was a safe thing, and then everything fell to pieces. There was something else that just broke today that I wanted to bring up. And
you want to talk about the debate?
Oh, sure. The debate is coming. The thing that happened today in the debate that is noteworthy is that Kamala Harris finally just agreed to stop pushing on the issue of the open mic because she said she was afraid, she was concerned that Trump would cower out if she didn't agree to the terms. So the terms are set, no audience, muted mics, and just the two commentators that are going to be posing the questions. What will be interesting to see is that if they will feel any more pressure, because Jake Tapper and Dana Bash did not do any fact checking against Trump at all in the first debate. And he was just saying a lot of BS, and they just kind of let him go. The question will be whether or not they will feel at all obligated to either have a live fact checker who's working behind the scenes and can feed them fact checks into their little earpieces, or whether or not, because it's not like he's saying any new lies. They're all old lies. So they should know that they should push back against them immediately. So that's going to be the real thing for me, whether or not that's going to happen.
She is a prosecutor.
Oh, I'm not concerned about her.
She is a fact checker.
Yeah.
She's going to be checking him herself.
But I don't want her to have to take all her time countering him. I want
She
her
only has to do it a couple times to get him angry enough to get off his game and start saying crazy shit and call her a name. If he calls her one name, just one.
Oh, nasty is coming. He's going to call her nasty.
Yeah.
You're such a nasty woman.
And it'll be over for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love for that to be true. Fingers crossed, double fingers crossed, toes crossed too. That would be a spectacular outcome.
You people, you don't even know if you're Black or Indian. Any sort of racist, sexist comment, and it's done.
Oh, which brings me to Jesse Waters, and we are just over an hour, so we should be trying to tighten this up. But you all weren't with us last week, and we didn't address this last week. So on Jesse Waters, his other show, where he has a group of panelists, and usually Jessica Tarloff is on that show. She is the one progressive.
I love her.
Anything on Fox. Usually she's there to like just slap and clap back. But Jesse Waters said, trying to make a point that Kamala was going to be ineffectual and weak. He said these generals are going to get her in the Situation Room and have their way with her. And even Judge Jeanine Pirro was like, Jesse, I don't like that. And he's like, what? Not in a sexual way. He literally smirked and winked. I mean, they were going to control her, not in a sexual way. And it was like, bro, your guy is the guy talking about sexually assaulting women nonstop. That's your guy. And the generals, between the Arlington thing and the Army statement and everything else, the generals are not feeling him right now.
Okay.
They really aren't. And Arlington probably pushed their buttons more than they're willing to admit. That was a horrible desecration. And they're trying to spin it like it was nothing. You took campaign video and put a campaign video out within a day. That's exactly what they told you not to do. And you did it anyway.
Moments like that they just don't understand how it affects women. I don't care what party you're a member of.
Yeah.
You know, when you say things like that, Jeanine Pirro, she probably just said it like, come on. But you know, she was thinking, yo, that's a bridge too far.
Right. For her to have said anything at all.
Exactly.
And immediately, oh, Jesse, I don't like that. And this was the two punch, because Trump had posted a picture of Hillary and Kamala talking about it's amazing how a blowjob could change their lives in such different ways. He literally shared that on Truth Social, which, by the way, has lost 70%, 75% of its value since launch.
So it's worth 75. It's worth 25 cents now.
Well, no, it started out at like 20, and then it went up to like 40 something, and now it's sub 20 again. In the middle of Trump saying there's going to be a crash, a huge crash, if Kamala wins. And it's like, but your stock is the stock that's tanking right now.
He said the same thing when he was running against Joe Biden.
The exact same thing.
Yeah.
And the stock market has doubled in volume.
Back to Sam's statement, coaching Trump for the debate. It's Tulsi Gabbard. What is it, Gabbard or Gabbard?
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah.
When does she become so authoritative as to how to, quote unquote, counter Kamala? She had that one moment during the primary in 2000 and whatever that was. And all of a sudden they're like deploying her to like be the lead prep person for Trump to like to really get under her skin. When does she become this person?
When she was brown and a woman.
Is that what it was?
That's all it is.
Oh, okay.
Because he's going to look at Tulsi and with his bleary, squinting eyes, he can see her as Kamala, and it will incense him. She doesn't bring that much to the table. I mean, she's feisty, but she's not clever.
Yeah.
She thinks she's.
He got one good hit in one time 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's not hanging together for her. No. And it's like, okay, girl, that's fine. I mean, do what you do, but you were from Hawaii.
Yeah.
And Trump didn't win Hawaii.
And Bobby, right. He gonna blame her.
Oh, yeah.
When he fails.
Oh, for sure. It's gonna be, I can't wait. I am so looking forward to it. It is going to be a shit show.
Are we on? I say on blast.
I'm actually not going to be available on Tuesday.
Yeah.
If you all want to do a blow by blow for the debate, that would be spectacular. I can certainly set it up, but I'm not going to be available.
Okay.
I don't think I can. I would rather do a highlight show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. So the plan will be for the Sharpies in the audience. The plan will be for next week for us to do a post-debate wrap-up show on Thursday. So that's what you can look forward to. Do we have anything else? So I think yeah.
I think I'm good. Oh, the whole Tim Walz's family situation is trying to like create a little momentum, but I don't think it's not going to go anywhere. You know, his brother is still like a Trump supporter, not hardcore MAGA, but he's a Trump supporter. And they're trying to like really, really lean into that story. For what reason, I don't know. I feel like it's American as apple pie to have different political parties in your family. I know.
I thought the brother kind of backed off of that, though.
Well, he backed off saying that there was nothing really salacious other than the fact that he gets car sick and he'll throw up on in your lap. But somehow they were able to dig up these distant cousins of Tim Walz, put them in Walz for Trump t-shirts, and do this huge photo op. You can Google it now if you can and put it on the screen. So they were trying to like run with it. And I don't know what it means, but for some reason they thought there was a there, and it's really not.
No, and they don't want to go there because some of Trump's immediate family has written books about how they hate him. So
yeah,
what you don't want is to get into whose family is supporting who. Yeah.
But you can tell they were all dug up because the t-shirts, the punctuation on the t-shirts are even all wrong. So I was like, you guys are just really, really trying here. That was one thing that I saw today.
Yeah, I got nothing else. I think we're good.
All right. Well, Sharpies, again, thank you. Numbers are climbing. We really appreciate that. Please invite your friends. We'd love to have more people participating in the conversation.
Chan, we got to bring.
Oh my gosh, we did leave that off. So Tenet, and this is going to be a quickie. You guys can look this up. Tenet was a quote unquote media company that received $10 million in funding from an initially unnamed funder who then eventually was named. But it turns out that the $10 million actually came from a Russian disinformation cabal directly tied to the Russian government. And so all of these right wingers, apparently the right wingers who were putting out their media were unaware that they were being used as Russian fronts. So at least there's that. And now they have somewhat disavowed themselves and kind of backed away from the people who were doing the funding. But they were happily posting hundreds of posts when they were in the dark. So it's really par for the course, honestly. I mean, as much as Tucker Carlson went to Russia trying to praise the fact that Russia was so great and how Russia has these carts where you can put a ruble in and release it and then you return it. And apparently he's never been to an Aldi over here. It's par for the course for them. It's not really a surprise. Whether or not it will injure them at all is an open question. But Ukraine has somewhat retreated, I think, from the consciousness of people because Palestine and Israel is kind of surged to the forefront. But you never know. Everything counts. And so it would be great if those people were outed as the clowns that they are. But with that being said, we'd love for you to invite people to subscribe and click that notification bell for Steel Sharpens Steel if you are a YouTube watcher. And if you enjoy watching us on Facebook, please follow the page, like the page, and make sure that you are trying to be notified and sharing that information with your friends on Facebook.
And I've noticed that a couple of people came in at our old time. We moved it up a little bit. We got some private messages and a few things about it being at 8:30 and going kind of until 10. So we moved it up to 7:30 East Coast time, 4:30 West Coast time. So for those of you that popped in about an hour into it, or like we already started. So yeah, 7:30 now, 7:35 East Coast time. So look for us then. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you follow our page on Facebook. So you do get those notifications when we go live. We don't want y'all to miss anything.
No,
And we'll
but
see y'all
luckily
again.
you can still watch us. Please go back and watch now. Watch from the top. Just
Yes.
rewind and just watch it all again. And with that, I will say, I'm Tom Cunningham.
I'm Joy Stevens.
I'm Jermaine Taylor.
And this is Steel Sharp and Steel. Thank you, everybody.